In today's episode of It Looked Easier on YouTube, we have an AM86A, which is 2008 Outback, with a little note. This is another victim of someone trying to fix it, blah blah blah. I hope it can be fixed. Good luck. Alright, let's take a look what happened here. So, we see plenty of scraping around here. Plenty of gunk left over. This is most likely conformal coating. We have very minimum melting to the harness, so either the harness was properly protected or no hot air was being used, because I don't see any melting to the cap, which is good. The chip is perfectly aligned, which leads me to believe that perhaps the chip has not been removed, so there was no hot air being used, but instead just pins were reworked, or at least someone tried to rework the pins. Now there is plenty of some kind of gunk. This is conformal coating, so I guess maybe hot air was being used, but probably this was from cleaning with alcohol, and all that conformal coating started floating somewhere else. I have no idea what this is. Is this a black marker that turned blue? Because they can turn blue when you dissolve them in alcohol. It could be even here. What happened here? Okay, we see the sign of flux, which is a good sign. So the flux was being used. It looks like RMA flux, perhaps, or maybe I'm wrong. No, it's kind of brittle, so it's probably RMA flux. And even further here, oh my god, how did it go all the way to over here? All the way even here. Damn. Yeah, there was struggle. There was definitely struggle. But interesting that there is no melting here. So I think maybe there was no hot air used. It looks like it was cleaned very well. Oh no, what is this? Conformal coating? It shouldn't be. There shouldn't be conformal coating here. So I guess this is flux? Could be. Very interesting indeed. What is this? It feels to me like conformal coating, but maybe this is some crappy flux. Also very possible. Maybe this is king bow, unactivated king bow, or unactivated king bow mixed with conformal coating, which makes a very nasty mixture. Okay, so let's clean it a bit and see how the pins were actually worked. Okay, it looks to me like it was conformal coating, so that is especially maybe not concerning, but what I think happened here is if you try to rework the pins around the chip, and you don't remove all that conformal coating, then even if you use good flux, that flux is going to mix with conformal coating, and it's going to be a very frustrating process, and that is consistent with what I see here. It definitely was a frustrating process. It took a while, to the point where the board, especially here, which is weird because this side is the easiest one, but it has been scraped really deeply over here, so that's physical damage to the board. But it doesn't look like any pins are missing, and doesn't look like it has been overheated either, so this is not too bad. Yeah, this pin is not soldered on correctly, so that's why the car misfires. This one's not that great either, but both of these are signal lines. Cylinder 1, 2, 3, they look to be soldered okay, not bad. Yeah, another signal. Yeah, this is not gonna work most likely. This one is, I think, NC, I don't remember. The ground, surprisingly, the ground was soldered on pretty well. This is not easy to do. This one definitely is not soldered on correctly. And this side looks pretty good. It's not too shabby. Look at that. Could have been maybe perhaps a little better, but not too bad. So I think that this was not a skill issue. this was the issue of crappy flux, and perhaps conformal coating wasn't cleaned off, right? If you're looking for a really good flux, I have one. It's in the description, and it looks something. Let me just show you. Let's preheat the board a little bit, just so it's nice and warm. Yeah, I see the flux residue. I think that is flux residue. Some crappy flux. Okay, it's nicely preheated. Yeah, and the smell, oh, yeah, that's definitely some crappy flux, crappy chemical flux. So let's apply fresh organic flux. Then just 370 on the iron, put some solder on it, and just do this, and you're done. Now, flux cleaning can be a little bit frustrating because most kinds of flux don't clean very well, but this one just needs a little bit of alcohol. You give it a little drink and you just wait. And one more shot of IPA, and it should be enough. See how the flux just kind of disappears by itself? That's the power of the organic flux. Which means you don't have to treat it with toothbrush or Q-tip or whatever. Just spray some alcohol and just wait for everything to just become clean. Now there's a little bit of that black residue. That was mainly from my dirty tip, the soldering tip, but it should just float away by itself. If not, yeah, it got a little stuck, but as you can see, the flux was removed. So let's just get rid of that char like this, and one more spray of alcohol. And as you can see, it's not necessarily a skill issue. If you don't have proper chemicals, if you don't have proper tools, it's just gonna be difficult. On the other hand, if you have a lot of skill, then even with crappy tools, you can get the job done pretty well. And there. So this would be okay. And if you do that, that last pin over here, it looks, I don't know if it didn't solder on or there's a little gunk left on it still. Let's see. Yeah, it could have been reworked again, but I just wanted to show you how easy it is when you have proper chemicals. We're gonna remove the chip and clean all that solder and inspect the pods and everything. But this method, it can resolve the problem for a week, maybe 2 weeks, and the problem will come back. If you want to do it properly, you have to remove the chip. No way around it. So let's cover it with the cups and the cup and the harness so we don't melt anything. Get some good light on it. And let's heat it up from afar first so we can evaporate all that IPA left over, because we just kind of drowned the board in IPA. Overall, this was not too bad. I've definitely seen worse. I've even done worse in the past. You know, I was learning at some point as well. So I've done crappy job before. So this is overall not too bad. It's also noteworthy that no pods, or at least we'll see in a second, because they may have been overheated, and once we remove the chip, they will fly off. So let's not praise it too quickly, too soon. The chip is off, and let's see. Yeah, definitely. So look at those marks over here from the vias, right? This is crusty solder, and this is your main problem, right? And the board doesn't look good either. That's the problem. So if you just rework the pins around without reworking the ground pad, it will not be reliable. The car will not work for very long. It might help for a week, maybe 2. Sometimes it helps for much longer, but eventually it always comes back. So let's now remove everything, all the old solder. It's easy when the board is hot and when you have good flux. It should clean pretty much like this. That was one pass only, and as you can see, the wick is completely saturated. You can put some leaded solder to make it easier, but as you can see, with good flux you don't really even need to do that. But as long as the board is warm, so if you wick right after you remove the chip, it's easy. If you wait too long, then you have to subsidize with hot air. This flux also has some lubricating properties, so it's easy to scrape across without risking of removing the parts. As long as they haven't been overheated, wicking alone with this flux is not gonna rip anything off the board. But if it was overheated, it will. Alright, now let's spray it with some alcohol. Let it dissolve everything and remove all the flux. And then just wipe with paper towel and we're done. Okay, so the board is ready. So let's apply a little bit of solder to the pads. So I'm going to preheat it again just to make the process easier. And flux. My temperature was a bit too high on the iron. And you want those connections to be shiny and smooth, just as you can see over here. So the board is prepped, so now let's prep the chip. Put some flux on the chip. Now this one separated a little bit, so it doesn't look as great right now, but it's fine. Even when it separates, it still works perfectly fine. And this should be it. So that was one pass, but it looks like one pass is enough. Okay, we see no signs of corrosion, no signs of damage of any kind, so the chip is perfectly reusable. So let's reuse it. Now, if usually when I see either on this side some signs of corrosion or anything like that, or the chip at the top seems to be damaged, like maybe scraped by tweezers or something like that, then I just replace it. But this one looks perfectly fine. Okay. That should do it. Now let's clean it off. And now we just need to replace the chip. Now, admittedly, when I was starting in this was something that I struggled with the most, because you have to heat up the chip significantly, sufficiently, and you have to align it. And you also need to use proper amount of flux, so it doesn't just fly away on you. It just takes a little bit of practice to get this right, but it's not that hard. So first, let's confirm that the chip is not sticking. It is sticking. So let's clean it a little better, because I don't like when they stick to your tweezers. I don't like that. But as soon as you heat it up, the stickiness will go away, because the flux will be liquefied. Okay, this is the orientation. So now the chip is not sticky anymore. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to preheat the board first, then put some flux, wait for it to boil off. I put a little bit too much flux, so the chip is just going to float away now, but that's quite okay. We can work with that, because the longer you blow hot air, the more of that flux will just fly off. Mind the orientation. Oh, now we got sticky, but that's fine. Alright, so now let's pick up the chip if we can. No, we can't. Heat a little bit here to get all that flux to fly out a little bit. Then place the chip. Not like this though, not like this. And now it's just a matter of aligning it. Once it's sufficiently hot and you have enough solder and enough flux, it should jump into its position by itself. It looks aligned, but let's take a closer look. It's aligned well enough. You don't have to chase perfection in this. You can put more solder on the ground pad, which will make the chip easier to self-align. But problem with that is that if you put slightly too much, there's going to be issues. So it's better to put essentially not enough than put too much. And just rework the pins. We have a little lighting issue here, but it's fine. Now essentially what you want here is the same, roughly the same amount of solder on each pin, if you can. Any excess should be easily removed. Okay, this should be okay. So now let's just spray it with alcohol and just wait. You don't need to scrub it, you don't need to scrape it, wipe it. Just give it a couple shots of IPA and it'll just clean by itself. Okay, a few shots of IPA later. We're looking good. Now let's take a look, because I don't like the ground over here. Oh, it actually doesn't look bad. It looked a little yucky from the other perspective. I mean, it's not the best. Now this side looks awesome, and this side looks okay, and this side looks okay. Yeah, the joints are not as shiny as I would like them to be, but it should work. Now, just for the, I don't know, shall we rework the ground over here? Oh, it looks okay. You know, with these, you don't necessarily want to chase perfection, because oftentimes when you try to chase perfection, it just has the opposite effect. Now, the chip didn't clean didn't clean all the way, because there's some glycerin left over, the glycerin that didn't burn off from the flux, and alcohol will not remove glycerin. Glycerin is water soluble, it's not alcohol soluble, but all the flux was removed. That's the main idea. Now the reason it's got some glycerin left over is because this tube separated a little. Not super much, but it's separated. You can see it in the tube, and you can see it when I apply it. Now the reason this one separated is because I was using it for BGA, and the problem with BGA, when I do wicking, I have to put it underneath, essentially underneath the top heater, which heats up the entire tube and it just activates the flux. So you don't want to heat up the tube itself, otherwise it will activate and it'll start separating eventually. It won't separate immediately after you heat it up, but the next day you will notice that it's separated. You don't want to activate it too quickly, or before you use it. So you want to squeeze it to the board or whatever you're working on and then heat it. You don't want to heat the tube itself. Do not heat it up, because it activates at very low temperatures, 80 degrees to 100 degrees. Storing in the fridge. That gives you the long-lasting results, or the flux will be long-lasting. The shelf life guaranteed is 1 year in the fridge, 9 months in room temperature, as long as you don't heat it up. But as you can see, even when it separates, even when you don't treat it properly and it does separate like this, the separation is not like it used to be, that you would have two distinct liquids in the tube, one at the top, one at the bottom, right? The glycerin would float to the bottom and the rest of the compound would float to the top. This one separates a lot less significantly, but if you activate it, it will separate. Now let's clean the rest of the board. All this nastiness over here, it should clean nicely with just alcohol and toothbrush, but we'll see. It kind of depends what this nastiness is. If it's conformal coating, it cleans relatively easy, maybe not super easy, but it cleans with just an alcohol and toothbrush. Ultrasonic cleaner will take that off, but it takes a while and it might cause some damage because of that. So if you have to sit it in the ultrasonic cleaner for 35 minutes, then you're risking some damage. You can dislodge some components, you can damage some components, especially crystals like here, right? They can get damaged through the ultrasonic cleaning. It's very rare, but it happens. Alrighty, and now let's do a little visual inspection. So we don't want to see any flux left over, although this is NC flux, so if it is left over, it's not going to kill anything, it's not going to damage anything, it just doesn't look good. All that nastiness looks like it went away. This point over here was the hardest one, the big blob of, I don't know, it was conformal coating, probably mixed with flux or something like that, could be. So that was kind of tough to remove. There is a little sign of conformal coating left over here, which is fine. Yeah, there's a little bit of alcohol left over there. So first we're gonna treat it with hair dryer to dry it properly, and then we're gonna spray some acrylic conformal coating all over the board to make it sealed again, and we're done. This should work perfectly fine. This was not too bad. The work done. I've seen a lot worse, and you know, if you've never done it and you think you can do better, I try it. It's a lot more tricky than what it looks like when you just watch someone else do it. That's usually how it is with this kind of work. But overall, good effort, not bad. It could have been a lot worse. Last one we did had like 2 or 3 pods completely removed, and we had to retrace it, put new pods on, and there was a little bit of effort that we had to put into the previous one. But this one, not that bad, not that bad, not at all. Very good effort, very good effort. Next time you'll get it perfectly fine, probably. But definitely the chip has not been removed, it was just worked around, so don't do that. I mean, it's not worth it. It's not that expensive to send it to my shop and have it done properly. You're gonna save what? Save a few bucks and waste the entire afternoon cursing and screaming because the solder doesn't flow where you want it to flow. Nah, don't do it to yourself. Alrighty, thank you fellas very much for watching. I do appreciate you, and I shall see you guys in the next one.